Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by Genesis House, FirstNet, built with AT&T, and the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts,
Podfather,
Jersey Ed,
and Noontime with Skylar Noon,
as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friends in Recovery Podcast.com. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with...
Hey, guys, Jersey Ed from the lovely Minneapolis, Minnesota, guys. That's where I'm at today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And it's Skylar with Noontime.
Skylar with Noontime.
It's always
I think I said it backwards.
Yeah. This is not a professional show. Yeah, exactly. Noontime with Skylar.
Either way, great having you.
If you guys want to comment on Noontime with Skylar or whatever she said, you can give us an email at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. That's help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. And if you want to tell Skylar how great she is, okay, because this show was mediocre until you came on, Sky, and now it's above and beyond. So you can give us a call at 617-379-1163. That's 617-379-1163. And Podfather, how's it going?
Hey, going great. How's it going with you? I heard you guys really had a, when I say you guys, but I mean you Skylar, and the Friends in Recovery community. Had quite a time. I saw some pretty nice pictures there of snowshoeing and mountain climbing and goat wrestling. Geez, it looks like a lot of fun.
We did a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Well, Skylar and I headed up a Friends in Recovery adventure to High Point State Park in New Jersey. And I think we were calling it the Not High Point, right, Sky?
Yep, exactly. Not high point.
Yeah, exactly.
Flat, so.
Yes, exactly. So, and we just had a great time, man. We went snowshoeing. We had to like flip on a dime too, because we were all going up there for a hike. And then the last minute we find out we can't hike because there's too much snow. We have to rent snowshoes. So everybody came together. It was about 15 of us that went on this hike.
Awesome.
And it was so cool. We had a great time. So Sky and Skylar was there. So
I thought, since we were going to snowshoe, that the distance would be less, but it wasn't. And I finished. So I finished. I didn't finish last, and we made it. And we're talking about the highest point in New Jersey. So the hill going up was rather steep, and it definitely strenuous. We'll say that, to say the least, right?
Were your legs sore afterwards? That looks like a lot of work.
Jello.
Yeah. Because
but it was great.
The snowshoes actually go pretty deep into the snow sometimes too, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're gliding.
No, you're definitely not gliding. No, you're
right.
You're basically walking. Basically, that's what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're on a frozen lake, you glide. But if you're going through snow, that's a lot of work, baby.
Yeah.
Podfather, you know what was good about this hike is that we all came together like we do in recovery. We all come together. We all helped each other out. There was people on there that didn't do much, and there's people like my level, marathons and beyond, and we all band together and we helped and we pushed each other, and we kind of carried each other, not physically, but we carried each other through different points, and even me, I had to get carried through a little bit because I was getting worried about everybody and people. We all just came together, and that's what recovery is about. This was a sober adventure in recovery, and it was really, really cool. So thanks for asking, Podfather. And Sky, how can they get a hold of it, the next Friends in Recovery adventure and all the Friends in Recovery stuff?
So we are going to do a monthly committee meeting. The next one at this point is March 16th. After that, we'll have to get to the next date. But as of the next one, March 16th, I think we might be doing some skating this month. But we definitely are planning something. And it goes a long way, the symbolism for me looking back, finishing an 8K. It was like, we can't give up on ourselves, because who's going to give up? You know what I mean? Like, if we give up on ourselves, who's going to be there? So we had to keep pushing. Yeah, and then, when we all had to collaborate, like, oh, here's a Wooder, here's, we all work together, it was like a community, Yeah,
it was. And the other thing, if you want to see some pictures of that, go to our Facebook page, which is Friends in Recovery Community, right? Or
Yes.
Friends in Recovery Adventures.
Yes.
So look for those 2 Facebook pages. And then I'll get you linked into the planning meeting. I'll get you linked into the Friends in Recovery Community. And guys, I know we're popular all over the world. This show is so popular, right? I mean, we have billions of people, satellites and everything pulling us around. But, we don't just have to do it in New Jersey. If you want to do a Friends in Recovery Adventures somewhere in your area, let us know. Email us, help@friendsrecoverypodcast.com. Come on our Facebook pages and find out when that meeting is and come to our planning meeting. Mike, the Podfather, I think he's going to do some ski jumping. He has something planned, the Podfather, in a couple weeks. So
I was an Olympic holdover from '84.
Yes, he was.
In Zurich. And I just never got it. Hey, a quick question before we bring on our guest. So who was standing on his head with the snowshoes on? Who was that?
Angelique. That's the one that was on the podcast last week.
Yeah.
I got to say that was one talent. Is it a female, right? A woman?
Yeah.
Angelique,
yeah.
you have my utmost respect. I don't know how you did that, but that is a cool picture.
Right?
Yep, that's good. I like that. That should be in every ski shop or any place that sells snowshoes. That was awesome. I love it.
Right.
Well, she was the one who was on our podcast last week that got married. Yeah, that got got married,
engaged.
But they got engaged. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
she's a talented girl.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking for a picture. Hold on, I'm going to put a picture up, Skylar. But do you want to talk about our next guest? Why I'm looking for a picture for Angelique on her head? I know I have one in here.
Yeah,
so we can put it up.
Today we have a guest. Her name is Niki. I've known Niki since 2008 or 9. I went to Genesis in 2008, and then right as I got out, she kind of came in. So, and then we actually went to the same halfway house. So she's been in my recovery journey for a minute now. And aside from being a fellow alumni, she's also in recovery. She's very active in her AA. She's great with the big book and the steps. She can really take them apart and really help somebody understand it. And that, for me in recovery, that was always important, because one thing you hear all the time is you got to do the steps, you got to do steps, got to do steps. But if you can't understand why you're doing them, then, so that's why it's always good to have someone like Niki that can help break it down for you. And that's me on the ground right there.
So that's a picture, Podfather. Yeah, that's
me.
A picture of us. I don't have the thing, but that was the crew, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, that's the crew. So
looks like a fun time.
Yeah.
I'm breathing heavy just watching it. I'm exhausted.
Yes.
I know.
But so Niki came to Genesis in 2009. That wasn't her story exactly from there, but she has a history working in treatment as well. And she actually just had a baby in recovery, in a pandemic and in recovery. So how awesome is that?
That's
but
awesome.
I'm going to let her finish telling more about her, but I mean, I could probably go on for a while.
I know. Niki, welcome to the Alumni Giving Back series. You made it to the podcast, the Giving Back series. Welcome.
I made it.
Yes, you did.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You want to talk a little bit about what brought you here? Well, we know what all of us here, but what brought you here?
What brought me here? So I always start off by telling people, like, I was one of those people that just I was like an alcoholic from like the day I was born. Like I was like a little budding alcoholic from as soon as I could start crawling around. My mom has like stories of me, like, trying to run the show from day one. I used to like go into elevators in public places, and I would make people, strangers, stand in certain corners, go in and out in certain orders, like always trying to arrange things, trying to run the show to suit my needs. So like, I was a little alcoholic from day one. And then, obviously we know what brought me here. I discovered drugs and alcohol. And I liked them. And it's funny now because I speak so much. I obviously am like very active in the recovery community. But I'm very anxious. I'm like a very anxious person. And, I have like the voice racing in my head all the time. Like that is me, just like perfectionist, control freak, so much anxiety. And I remember like the first time I took a sip of like a warm Bud Light in my friend's attic with like 12 of us passing around the bottle. Like I remember the comfort it brought me. Like I caught a little buzz and I was feeling okay. And like all that craziness kind of mellowed down. And I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like I want to feel this way. forever. So that's what I did. And like, I quote the big book a lot. Skylar knows, but like it was that ease and comfort that it talks about in the doctor's opinion. I found that ease and comfort. And I was like really, really ready to chase that feeling. Like that feeling was so elusive that even though I knew it was killing me, like I was ready to trade in anything for it. And like, I don't ever really like to go into like these like detailed, like, stories about what my drinking and using looked like. But like it definitely brought me to all the familiar places. I tell people whatever your DOC was, I can relate. I've been to all the usual spots, the jails, the detoxes, many treatment centers. I even went on the Dr. Phil show once to see I've actually been on there a couple times, sober for the last couple, but
cool. Tell us about that. Talk about that a little bit. That's pretty interesting. I heard you talk about that in a meeting and I was like, get her on the show.
Yeah. So as my like drinking and using progressed, I found myself homeless for several years. And then towards the very end of my illustrious using career, I found out I was pregnant and hadn't spoke with my family in quite some time. My mom is a diehard Dr. Phil fan though. And of course, when she found out, she's like, I need to write Dr. Phil about this. Like, so she wrote Dr. Phil and she was like, my daughter Niki's been using heroin for, almost a decade. She's been homeless for several years. I'm pretty sure she's pregnant. This is where I think she's living. And the good people at Dr. Phil like flew out there and they flew me to LA. They got me on the show. Yeah. And they got me cleaned up and sent me to treatment.
Is that, Niki, great story. I'm just wondering, is that when your recovery began?
So that was, I like to call that the beginning of the end for me. I did not stay sober. I'll talk about it a little bit. I did not stay sober when I came to Genesis in 2009. I was very young then. And I also didn't stay sober when the Dr. Phil show first sent me to treatment. That was a couple months before I got sober. But that was, the beginning of the end. I left. Yeah, I left treatment. I was very pregnant. I was about 2 weeks out from having my firstborn. They left me to go. I left, went home, had the baby, and had every good intention of going back and getting back into treatment and doing what I was supposed to. But then I had that baby and she's so perfect. And
what could go wrong with a baby? I'm perfect. This is great.
Exactly.
Right?
And like, I fell victim to like the same thing I see so many other people say, like, how, I'm a mother. How could I ever, I'll stay sober for my kids, obviously. Like, I'll stay sober for my daughter. And I didn't. But thank God I got arrested again and they made me very willing to go back to treatment, which I finally listened and got involved. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, on the Jerry Springer show I just want to get back to it real quick. That's just
Jerry
fascinating.
Springer.
Not Jerry Springer.
Dr. Phil.
You've been
Phil
on
and Jerry Springer.
Where's his
Jersey
head at?
Ed's been on Jerry
That's right.
Springer.
Yeah, I know. Dr. Phil, was it like an intervention? I'm sure everybody has all these questions. Send us emails if you want, but we'll
I cry when I watch it. The first one, the original.
Yeah. It was very much like the same setup as intervention. They came, they followed me around. I mean, it's like watching a different life. I mean, I was 8 and they followed me around the streets of Lake Worth.
Oh my
doing
God.
what I was doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's really
And the
amazing.
show was raw with the family, like, talking to her and explaining how they feel. Like sister was not happy with her. Like, like it was heavy.
It was real.
Heavy.
It was real. I mean, when I walked out on stage, that was the first time I'd seen my mom in years. And
wow.
I was about to give birth to her first grandchild, not looking and doing so great. So
this is all due to addiction, man. Think about that. Right? And now look at life is so much different, right? I mean, it's just so crazy. Like what were we thinking, guys? Seriously. I mean, it's the disease that really took us in. Podfather, you were a cop doing all this crazy shit. I was a dad with 4 kids doing all this crazy shit. Sky, you were just fucked up really bad, like all of us were. And now, that's just, so here's the thing that links us all together. Number one is the disease. And number 2, we really don't care about anything except for the drug and the drink. End of story. That is it. We don't care about our jobs. We don't care about our family. We don't care about our kids, anything. And that's crazy. But thank you for bringing that point up and kind of talking about that. So, Podfather, go ahead. You had a
No, I
question?
was just, it's amazing. I just think it's amazing that she looks so young. Niki, you look so young. You look like you're about 25. So I don't know. I give you a lot of credit, and you speak very well. And I love the fact that you're quoting the big book, because you know, they say if you want to hide anything from an alcoholic, put it in the big book. You know? I do a step meeting once a week and a half for the last year and a half. I do an AA meeting. When I say I do, I facilitate. But I love the steps, and the steps to me are just, it's peace and quiet. It really is, because it tells me exactly who I am, what I'm doing. But the big book is right there with it. You know, it's just
Oh yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that's like definitely where I found my solution, this like freedom and you know, this like amazing life that I never thought was possible. And I'll talk a little bit more about it after the break, but like, you know, that downward spiral right towards the end that kind of like brought me in with my daughter wound up being like the like pivotal role in like the life I have today, and like my career, what I went back to school for, and like really where I found a lot of passion. So, you know, while it was heartbreaking and like very painful to go through this like experience of being pregnant and not being able to stop, and losing my daughter for a period of time as a result of my addiction, I'm very grateful for that experience. It's really kind of, you know, opened my eyes to this totally new life that I have today.
Yeah,
And yeah, and it is a new life. Absolutely, man. It's just a new life, and we all have our new lives. And I don't know so much. We're gonna break here in a second, but I don't know so much of a new life, guys. I think it's more of the life that we gave up. The life that we, it's just a better life, and the life that we abandoned all those years ago to take on this persona of drugs and alcohol and a shitty, really bad life, you know. And then we're blessed because we get it back. When we recover, we're able to get it back. Some people don't, you know, some people don't get it back. So we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and talk to Niki, maybe give us some big book stuff. You know, you are the big book guru at age like 19 or whatever you are. You look so young, and like Podfather said, but we'll talk about that, and we'll talk a little bit about Genesis House and where you're at now. And that's it. Podfather.
Yep. Friends in Recovery podcast. We'll be right back.
You're first. First to respond. First to put others' lives before your own. And in an emergency, you need a network that puts you first, that connects you to technology, to each other, and to other agencies. Built with and for first responders. FirstNet, the only congressionally authorized wireless network for first responders. Because putting you first is our job.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friends in Recovery podcast.com. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, here with.
Hey guys, Jersey Ed here. I am Minneapolis, Minnesota, guys.
Yeah.
Home of the time with Sky down here in South Jersey. We're up here.
Up there.
Are you in a danger zone, or is it quiet down there? Or?
Minneapolis?
No, South Jersey.
Oh.
It's always a danger zone in Minneapolis.
Jesus Christ.
I heard Snooki's coming back. She's gonna have her own show.
That's the Skylar's on the other side of the state. Skylar's on the opposite side. That's the Jersey Shore side of the state. Right. So,
well, I figure you're all from Jersey. You got to know Snooki, right?
Oh, yeah. Of course. Just because we're from Jersey, that's it. We know that she's our best friend. So, but speaking of the other side of the state and the other side, guys, you know what time it is? Anybody?
West side?
No.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me think. Oh,
What is this?
would it
West
be
Coast.
sober pod time?
Yes, sober pod time,
Or as I like to
everybody.
call it, Ed slobbering all over cow time. Go ahead.
We
Slobber
love
away.
them over there. We love sober pod. Hi, Carl, Steve, Ellen, and Chelsea. Great shows. They weren't on last week. They took a little break, and I think Chelsea did an interview. And go listen to Sober Pod and listen to Chelsea's interview. But they are back this week, and I was just talking to Carl, and he was really cool. They do like a Facebook Live thing. So tonight I'm going to chair the meeting, our 12-step meeting tonight at 7 for Friends in Recovery, and I'm going to try to get everybody from the meeting to go on to Facebook Live and make them put us all on Zoom.
Oh, nice.
I know. Then we're
trickster,
gonna take it over. Yeah, that's what I was talking about after the show. So, but Carl, we love you guys. We love Sober Pod. Big fans, and just because there's a restraining order doesn't mean we don't love each other. Okay,
It's only temporary.
that's right. Carl will get over it. I promise.
1 year.
I know.
Stay away.
Anyways, so Nikki T is in the studio. Skylar, you and her kind of we've been hitting it off even on the break, and we couldn't get back in because you guys were talking so much. But, but I know you know her, so ask away. Scott, I know you have some questions.
Yeah. And, Nikki's story is interesting in the sense that, she's a Genesis alumni, but that wasn't her story. You know what I mean? Like I think that can touch a lot of people, because I think that we can go to treatment and get out and we fall. And that shame and that guilt of falling so bad can literally make us not come back in. So you're back here, and that's huge, because that's the whole point, is that when we relapse, we learn from it, we get back up and we keep trucking. And that's what you did. You know what I mean? It was, 2009 is when you went, and then 2016 when you got clean. It took a little bit of time, but you had some research to do.
Yeah.
you know, and that's hopeful for a lot of people out there listening,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I went to treatment at Genesis House, like you mentioned in 2009, that was my first attempt to like go to treatment, get sober. And you're right. It's like, I see it a lot. I hear it a lot. Like, people think, and like, of course that, like, they want to stop. Of course they do. So they go to treatment and they don't even think that it's a possibility that they could relapse afterwards. I know I felt that way. I was only like 20 when I went to Genesis House, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unfathomable to me that, like, how could I ever want to go back to what I was doing, the way I was living? Like, there was absolutely no way. And that was like not my experience, like I went to halfway and like I did the things they told me to do. But as soon as I got out of halfway and like the freedom return and I turned 21, like the insanity struck me, and it was like straight out, like here in my big book, like it was like straight out of like More About Alcoholism. Like my period of, time like qualified me to drink, like, and like, I'm not an alcoholic, like hard drugs are a problem. Drinking, like, absolutely. There's no way that that's going to be a problem. And then like that, took me down another rabbit hole for years.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so true too. We think that alcohol doesn't count, and that can be the biggest thing that can spiral us,
I love what you said about the insanity. A good friend of mine who's been sober a very long time, and I believe he got this from the big book, said, first the insanity returns and then we pick up. And I've been fortunate. I've been sober without interruption, so I feel very blessed. I worked hard, but I just feel blessed because 90% of the people I work with have relapsed. So
for sure. And like, Skylar mentioned this, like, but it took me a very long time to come back, even to the next time I went to treatment, which I didn't stay sober after that either, but it took me almost 5 years to come back again. And then like, and then that was it. Like, I was out, I came back, did like another short stint in like little, psych wards, detoxes. Like, I was just out, and it took me almost 7 years before I finally came back. And what you mentioned, like, that was one of the first things that really grabbed me. Someone explained to me like this insanity that precedes the first one. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Like, I could relate. I was like, I'm insane. Like every time I would go to detox and go to these psych wards, every time I would come out and be like, I don't want to do this again. Like, I remember how terrible I felt going in. I remember how shitty detox was. Like, I don't want to do this again. I get it. Like, I don't want to. But then like, I thought I was insane. And like, that's exactly what the big book says. Like that I am like, I have no logical thinking before I pick up the first one. Otherwise I wouldn't do it. Like, I know, and so it took me a very long time. And then like 7 years later, I finally listened to someone that was like talking the steps in the big book to me. And I was like, oh, wow. Is this what they were trying to tell me like 10 years ago when I tried to get sober?
Wow,
the spiritual principle of acceptance, right?
Exactly.
10 years of treatment, huh? In and out and
a little less than that. So I went
Okay.
to treatment for the first time, treatment, inpatient, when I was 20 in 2009. I got sober 7 years later. But I was, drinking and using for a couple years before that. So it took me a good like 10 years out there before I was ready to accept spiritual help, like Skylar just said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now we know you started your journey off at Genesis House, and a lot of us aren't first time winners. Some of us are. It's great, but and I don't want to say relapse is part of recovery, but it's a side effect sometimes, unfortunately. And some of us go through it. Some of us don't. Yeah. And I was one of those people who it took a little bit too. But that's the grip of the disease that gets us, because it makes us think like, yeah, it's okay to mess around with your family. It's okay to not be there for anybody. It's okay to abuse and use and kill yourself. But that's obviously we got it and we're sober now. That's the best part. But why the big book, Niki? Why are you so? I mean, I'm there's always a step person or a big book person. I take a little bit from each. And I'm not huge on the literature. I like hearing people share. I like hearing people's stories. I like somebody when they talk to me. That's what I like. But why the big book? I'm just curious.
So I am like very much by the book. So the way that it was like kind of presented to me, someone gave me like a step one talk. Essentially, it was one of the techs at the treatment center I wound up at, and he was talking about step one. And he was like showing me out of the big book, like basically what you just said, Ed, like just talking to me about his experience. But he's like, this is what the big book says. Like, and I didn't even know that. Like, I'd been going to AA meetings for like 10 years and didn't listen to anything anybody was saying. He's like, all the big book says is when we're supposed to be helping a newcomer, we're supposed to be talking to them about our experience. I was like, no kidding. No kidding. So when they started to like show me what the book actually says about working the steps, it was nothing that like I thought. I was like, I've tried meetings, and like, yeah, I tried meetings, but that was like all I really did. I went to meetings and I didn't really do anything outside of going to meetings. I like wasn't helping anybody. I wasn't like, doing anything with the steps at all. I like would read, I would recite how it works. I would volunteer to read how it works, listen to how it works, read the steps of how it works, and then be like, whatever, see you later. So once like someone like started showing me these things in the big book, and like I realized that like maybe I should try to work the steps, because that's what it says to do. And like they've been telling me that for years, like get a sponsor, work the steps when you leave here, find a home group. And I was like, okay. But once I started doing that, I just found that like with any literature too, like the big book isn't the only one I read. There's lots of other things I do, and there's lots of other amazing ways to expand my spiritual life. But I like fell in love with what it says in the big book and the way the book talks about working the steps. And, I did it very quickly, like straight out of the book with my first sponsor, and I found relief. So like, right. I didn't want to stop. It was the first time ever. And this was like with 60 days sober, still in treatment. I had a sponsor that would like Uber up to my treatment center to meet me, which was like amazing in and of itself to me that a woman would do that.
That's cool.
And I felt differently. And like, it's very hard to explain to your family after 10 years of drinking and using that like something's different this time. But I knew the way I felt was different. And like, I knew the way I felt was different because I wasn't fighting the thought of drinking and using. Like I was sitting out by the lake one day, like those little man-made ponds that are everywhere in Florida. I was sitting out at one of them, because of course my treatment center had one. And I was like thinking to myself, I was like, wow, I haven't thought about getting high today. I mean, I got sober down here. I'm from Jersey too, but like I've been down here for years trying to get sober. And like this was right where I ran, and I was like looking around. I was like, I don't even want to hop the fence today, and I'm not sure when this happened, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, they say Winston Churchill, never, never, never give up, you know, and a lawyer, Jack D, who had many years sobriety, had been in nut houses, had been everywhere, took me under his wing, him and Jim W. And that's always been in the back of my mind, because I have so many friends that have been in the program, and I've had friends that have passed away, but more importantly, you just never give up. And here's the results. I mean, you are just exuberant, and you're just, it's just coming out all over. I mean, you're so, I don't know, you just really have a persona about you that's just, it just reflects your, how happy you must be right now. This is
Definitely. And like, I was that person. Like, I was that person that people thought wouldn't get sober. Like, I thought I was gonna die. I like accepted that I was gonna die. And then like once I like lost custody of my daughter, and you know, the whole Dr. Phil show thing, like I didn't think I was ever gonna get sober. And so, you know, the life I have today, it's just like a miracle. It's just like a miracle. And like I have the ability to help people now. Like you would have told me that I'd be working in treatment. And now that I work, not only did I work in treatment for years, which I loved, which is great, but like my niche and like my bread and butter obviously is like women who are mothers. And like there's something to be said about like, you know, parents who, I'm sure, Ed, you said you have 4 kids, right? Like when you look at your kids, like
5.
that's crazy. I have 2 and I'm overwhelmed. I look at my kids and like I love nothing more. I love nothing more than my children. And like I would never want to do anything to hurt them. And like there is something to be said about the powerlessness you feel when like that love is not enough to stop you from drinking and getting high. And like the ability, like now that's like my job is helping women who've been impacted by substance abuse, like who are mothers. It's like the most challenging and the most rewarding, you know, thing I can do. And like I'm so devoted and so dedicated to it. Like I decided to go back to school for something different. Like this is, you know, this is like my life's mission almost, I guess.
There is so much guilt and shame from mothers that I have I have quite a few clients that have lost their children. They're in the process of getting them back by staying sober, but there is so much guilt and shame in there, and they forget. A lot of people forget, even we forget. It's a disease.
Yeah.
You know, if you had cancer, you wouldn't forget. If you had diabetes, Alzheimer's, you know, any of those, you wouldn't forget. But we, for some reason, sometimes we have a hard time accepting the fact that we have a disease. Even though we believe it, we don't think that could be part of the disease, is not being able to stop and put down the booze and drugs, because we do have children to care for, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of guilt.
That's
Niki,
what I found like in meetings, like women coming up to me and like, I could never have shared this. I had so much guilt and shame about sharing, about using as a mother. Like it blows their minds that someone's honest about it.
Yeah. Niki, one thing you were talking about is, and Skylar knows this is my pet peeve. There's a difference between trying and doing. And I liked how you said, I tried. And then in your recovery, you said, I did it. I noticed that in your story, that you know the difference between trying and doing. There's a huge difference. Trying is just, listen, I always say, if Niki thought that trying was the right word to be, just try it. Give it a shot. Try it out. No, it's just fucking do it. You know what I mean? We're just doing it.
My try air quotes. I was.
I know.
I tried. I was trying to stay sober. Like I was living in South Florida, and to me that was like, well, I'm not living in New Jersey, so clearly I'm trying to stay sober.
I love it. Yeah, you're a girl after my own heart. I know we have a couple minutes left here, but I want you to talk about Genesis House. I know it wasn't the end of, you know, and the end and the beginning, but it was part of your journey. It was where you started. It was you know, it all adds up. Everything adds up. The way you got your recovery is because of all these steps that you took, and you're here, and that's why you're here. But who was your therapist? Because everybody's probably wondering, who was your therapist? Who was the therapist? Because everybody asks, like, you know,
my therapist's name was Vanessa. This was
Vanessa.
11 years ago now. Oh my gosh.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
12 years. Oh my gosh, 12 years ago.
Wow.
So 12 years ago, my therapist's name was Vanessa. I, you know, oddly enough, like I still keep in touch with some of those people,
Cool.
Skylar being one of them. And I think she kind of got to witness a lot of this with me, like in and out, you know, over the years. And like the very cool thing is, as soon as I got sober and like really was doing the deal, like I was looking for any opportunity to be helpful. And I reached right back out to Skylar. when I had like 6 months sober, and
Mhm.
and was like trying to find, you know, I got an H&I at Genesis then. And now with like, you know, a little over 4 years sober, me and my husband have an H&I at Genesis again. I live up the
Cool.
street from Genesis. I was just telling
Oh,
Tyler, I live like 3 minutes away. I'm
oh,
right to where I started. And, you know, I get to like bring this meeting in now. And it's awesome. It's like one of my favorite H&I commitments that I've had, me and my husband both, because I get to share about like my experience with, you know, being there, being young, because there's always like a crew of younger people there, and what my experience was leaving, you know, thinking that like I know so much now, like how could I pick up ever again, and that just not being my experience, you know. And you know, I wouldn't change any of it ever. But it's like it's a very empowering thing to be able to share that, and to be able to be back there. I love going back there and telling people like, listen, I was here 12 years ago.
yeah, yeah.
I have a
and
friend who's down there right now. Actually, he's been there for a little over a week and probably 10 days now. And
Mhm.
I'm just so happy he made it there. And I haven't heard from him, which is good because I know he's still there. So
yeah, yeah. And that's great because you're bringing it's coming back full circle now where you began. And the cool part of it, and I want to talk about this with Skylar real quick, is that on I think you shared on a meeting on Tuesday nights at 8:15 Eastern time, we do an alumni meeting. So any alumni listening to this, you guys are more than welcome to come on, go onto our alumni page, Facebook page, and even on our website too. It's all there. And join us on this on the alumni meeting. It's a Friends in Recovery alumni meeting at 8:15 p.m. on Tuesdays, following our 7 p.m. meeting. And I always say it's a privilege for me to be on that meeting because I get to watch the alumni like you, Niki, going through everything and growing and becoming this wonderful, beautiful person, great mom, wonderful employee now, and helping people. I see everybody when they're at their worst. I see everybody when they're telling, you know, I'm not going to treatment, I don't have a problem, you know, pills are falling out of their pocket, or, you know, they're running to the dope man. It's just, you know, I see that part, but I come on these meetings and I get to see the transformation of people like you, Niki. So thank you so much. It's a wonderful story.
Thank you.
Yeah, and she comes on there a lot too, and you know, it's cool because
Yeah.
I have like my alumni that have been around for a while that are like like Niki, that are the first to put their number in the chat, first to offer their services to other alumni, sign releases so I can give out her number. Like, so you know, like these are the alumni I love because it's like they always stay active, but even if, you know, she can't make it, she still stay active in this process, and that's what we need. We need a network, a community that we all stick together.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
and Podfather, these meetings are growing. I think we had 30 people on a couple of weeks ago, 18 last weekend. This is mainly alumni. I mean, there's a few stragglers that come on, a few friends that come on, but you know, these
Niki,
meetings
when
are
she
growing.
came on in the very beginning, that's when we first started the meeting. We had like 3 or 4 people on there.
I know.
I actually have clients. I actually have clients up here in New Hampshire and Massachusetts that are just recently, within the last 10 days or so, been going on and enjoying it and watching the podcast. Yeah, so it's good. I like when they come up and tell me, hey, I saw the podcast. Hey, those meetings are really good. So yeah, you're doing a lot of good out there. Friends in Recovery. It's hey, Niki, I just want to say before we leave is I love your energy. What a great guest you've been.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate being able to do anything like this. When Skylar asks, I love it.
Absolutely. Well, guys, Niki, thank you for coming on to the show. Where's that baby at? Let's get that baby on camera here. Baby
James.
Nice,
quiet baby. Boy.
Yeah, I know. The baby's been with her the whole time. Look at that. Oh,
he is beautiful. Baby James.
Oh, baby James. All right. The title of this show is going to be Alumni Giving Back series, Niki T and Baby James.
That sounds good.
Because that's a true blessing of recovery right there.
Blessing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. So
super.
Well, guys, great show. Thank you guys so much. Sky, you add so much more depth to this show by bringing guests like Niki on. And thank you so much.
Last week. We missed you last week, Skylar, but boy, you really made up for it this week. What a great
guest. I was 8K, you know what I mean? I was 8K in snowshoes.
She was. Yeah, she had a rest. She rested. Well, Podfather, you want to do your stuff?
Absolutely. Great show, Ed. And Friends in Recovery podcast. Stay sober, everyone.
Stay sober, guys.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House, FirstNet, built with AT&T, for supporting those on the path to recovery and keeping this valuable resource free for all our friends in recovery. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery. If you can't get enough of Mike, the Podfather, Jersey Ed, and Skylar, you can catch them on Answering the Call, the First Responders Podcast, available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and GenesisHouse.net.